We're going to talk about marketing terms. We're going to talk about taking things that you do as a service, that your brand does with its product, and making up exciting terms for them, which makes people want to use and buy your stuff. I'm going to give some examples. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to start with technology. Actually, we're going to cover technology and then an experience that I had at an agency doing search engine optimization. But with technology specifically, you have things like the Retina Display, you have AMOLED, you have blast processing, and I'm going to talk about each of these, not calling a piece of technology what it is, because that sounds boring. People's eyes, when you say what blast processing actually is, people's minds will start to wander. So you want to say exciting terms. You want to make up exciting terms, make something sound cool and more understandable while seeming new and shiny and complex. But also it's short and memorable. And it's marketing terms. And coming up with marketing terms, that's an age-old technique for getting people to have interest in what you do or what your company does. Let's talk about the Retina Display. What makes a screen a Retina Display? So this is from Reddit. This is what Reddit said. Retina Display is a marketing term made up by Apple that should be taken as nothing more than that. Apple's claim is that the average person cannot identify individual pixels on that screen at a set viewing distance. So for example, a small phone screen doesn't need quite the same resolution as a massive monitor as the screen is smaller. A TV also doesn't need the same pixel density as it is further away. But here's the thing. It's really hard to say what resolution or pixel density Retina means, and it means absolutely nothing about what technology the screen is. Apple could have used the term AMOLED technology and call it a Retina display. Also, many other manufacturers' displays have similar pixels per inch density, but consumers want the Retina display because they hear it all the time. They want the Retina display. It's Apple. Apple is trustworthy. Retina display sounds cool. It's just it's what the eye can observe. It sounds sleek. And so even if another screen is the exact same, we want the Retina display. This is for AMOLED. I don't know if it's actually pronounced AMOLED, but I'm saying AMOLED. It's just a fancy marketing term basically for an OLED screen. So it's just a fancy market. They added 2 letters. It has meaning, but Samsung uses it for marketing in much the same way that Apple does with the Retina display. Coming up with marketing language to make stuff sound cool and exciting. A lot of people would say this is misleading. I think this is fun. On the Edward Show, this is the Edward Show. This is a marketing show. I think it's fun. I actually do. I think it's bursting with creativity. You can come up with all of these terms to make your stuff sound exciting. I like that. I'll give blast processing. I'll give the explanation for blast processing. If you grew up with the Sega Genesis, you may have remembered this term from their marketing campaign. This is from Quora. Blast processing was a marketing term coined by Sega to advertise the fact that the main processor of the Sega Mega Drive in the Sega Genesis was over 2 times faster than the one in its rival product, the Nintendo SNES. However, the campaign was misleading. While the SNES CPU did run slower in clock cycles per second, it would put out more instructions per clock cycle. The Mega Drive, so the Sega Mega Drive with blast processing, it would have to freeze the background and enemy animations while the game is moving at high speeds, even though it's called blast processing. I read another article that said blast processing likely never made it to any shipping title. But people wanted blast processing. Sounded cool. People want that Retina display. I was in an agency. A manager told me to make up as many sophisticated terms that I could think of in a sales presentation to get clients. We would do something called keyword arbitration, which literally is looking through you crawl all the pages on a site and you see if different pages are targeting the same keywords and you arbitrate them. So this was called keyword arbitration. If you Google what is keyword arbitration in SEO? Nothing comes up. But we would use it in our sales decks all the time. A lot of marketers, they want to think of things that sound savvy, that sound cool. It's you offer this. This is a little bit different. This is just coming up with like industry terms and then using them to make a customer think the customer can't do that themselves with service-based businesses. So if you have a service-based business, you would come up with complex terms to make the customer think the customer can't do that his or herself, or the company that was hiring you couldn't do that themselves. So you would come up with these sophisticated terms. With the Retina display and blast processing, you're coming up with terms that other companies do, but you're just branding these for yourselves. You are just having your own specific brand for a piece of technology that other companies use. Triluminous from Sony. It's just a fancy marketing term for an LCD screen. Triluminous. Fancy word for an LCD screen. Other examples. This is just general. So this isn't specific to like any brand, but you'll see like all natural. What does it even mean? In the same way that many different screens of many different pixels per inch could qualify for Retina. All natural can mean a lot of different things. Military grade. What military standards are being used? We don't know. I like the idea if you hear something enough, then it becomes familiar and you trust it more, and then you even develop desire for it. I'm running, I talk about Twitter X ads on the show. You can listen to episode 80. I think it's episode 80 where I give settings for Twitter X ads. And I'm getting millions of impressions and thousands of link clicks for $1 a day ad spend, as everyone listening probably knows. If you don't, I would encourage you, go listen to episode 80 if you want to hear how I do that. And one of the ads that I run is just a picture of my face. I'm not even joking. It's just a picture of my face. I use it for my newsletter. I use it for my podcast. I use it for my articles. And the reason that I do that is I want people to associate me with growth hacking and marketing. I want them to see this face and be like, this guy knows his growth hacking. This guy is an amazing marketer. I want them to see that. I want them to become familiar with who I am and my brand. And so I run these cheap ads. I wouldn't even call them cheap, just impossible. Impossible ads. There we go. It's like the Impossible Burger. Impossible ads. And people see me and see me and see me. And then they want to be part of the tribe. Daniel Kahneman, he talks about this. You use a term enough and people want that. The reason I'm even talking about this is because I'm listening to this episode of Acquired. Acquired is a venture capital podcast, but it's also just a great podcast about how companies got started and then grew. Huge companies, publicly traded companies. And Nintendo has a wild story. In fact, the Nintendo story is so crazy that the Acquired podcast made 2 3-hour episodes about it. I'm on the second episode during Console Wars with the Sega Genesis battling Nintendo, with Sonic battling Mario. And when this is talked about with the impressive marketing campaign that the Sega Genesis did, their term blast processing is brought up. And they're laughing. And I was listening to this and I was laughing too. And I'm like, I got to talk. I want to find more companies that do this. I got really excited to think about the creativity in making up exciting terms for what I do, for what my startups do, sharing this with other people. So you can come up with terms like the Retina display. Another screen could do what the Retina display does, but you want the Retina display from Apple. You want the Retina display. You don't want this other HD screen. You want the Retina display. Here's one more thing that I read. I wrote this down. I like this. And then I'm going to end after this. I'm going to end the pod, end this episode after this. The best marketing uses language to seem like the product solves a problem. This is most easily seen in the world of cell phones, but isn't limited to those devices. Screen resolution was once a major concern when buying a computer. When Apple debuted the Retina display in 2010, it seemed like such an amazing piece of technology. By calling it Retina display, Apple's marketing team managed to tell the customers this is a product for your eyes without actually telling them anything about the product. The reality, it's an HD display. HD is also a marketing term because it is subjective. HD simply means that you are seeing more pixels on the screen than on most of the other screens at the time the term was originally used. That's funny. That's really funny. In today's world of millions of pixels, the difference between one HD product and another is near to impossible to notice with a human eye. So think about some fun terms. Thank you so much for listening. This is episode 106. No, 107. Look at that. We got 107 episodes behind us now. This is my daily growth hacking podcast. I've been getting some good reviews from people, and I really appreciate the good reviews that people are giving me. I have this thing that I do on LinkedIn. I used to not accept like anybody. Now I accept everybody, and I just say to everyone, I'm like, hey, you might actually like my growth hacking podcast. I just say that to everyone who adds me on LinkedIn. I just have a default message that I send. And sometimes I will send that to people. They'll be like, that's why I'm adding you. I've listened to your show. And when that happens, I just feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you want to get that message. I'm Edward Sturm on LinkedIn. All right. I will talk to all of you again tomorrow. Bye now.